You are listening to Keep Canada Weird, a weekly weird news roundup by the Nighttime Podcast.
Hello, listeners, and welcome to the weekly Keep Canada Weird discussion series. If you're new here, I'm Jordan Bonaparte, and in Keep Canada Weird, my pal Aaron Airport and I seek out and explore the most offbeat news stories that played out across Canada over the past week. In tonight's episode, which we recorded on March 19th of 2024, Aaron and I really get to the heart of Weird Canada. We hear about a missing exotic cat in Toronto and a $10,000 reward its mysterious owner is offering for its safe return. We'll discuss the anonymous donation to an Edmonton thrift store that includes what may or may not be a guitar autographed by Guns N' Roses. We're going to catch a glimpse of a completely bald raccoon that was found in Cape Breton, and we'll celebrate the BC man who found fame after popping a balloon with an axe on YouTube. So pour a cup of anything except Tim Hortons coffee, and let's get into it. Handsome Aaron Airport. It's that time of the week. It is Tuesday night, which means we keep Canada weird. But before we do, I want to ask you, what's new? How's your new apartment? And is it haunted?
Yeah, it's haunted. You knew that because I called you at 4 a.m. the other night, screaming and crying. I was hiding under my bed, and you weren't too happy that I called you at that hour.
Just, we have this thing. I say, like, if you have a bad dream, write it down, call me in the morning, and we can talk about it. And I don't have the capacity to take on your problems in addition to mine.
Yeah, but I needed someone in that moment, and you weren't there for me.
Well, that's why this Christmas that just passed, I bought you a weighted blanket. And I said, when you feel like you need someone, just squeeze the blanket, and it'll be like all your friends in the Keep Canada Weird Army are there with you.
Yeah, but the blanket is the thing that's haunted.
Oh, shit. That's the issue.
Yeah,
I shouldn't have got the one with the face with the teeth.
Yeah, with this big haunted ghost on it.
This is weird. Let's move away from this discussion. This is way too personal. I want to move on to something I received from a listener that will open the door to our discussion. I spent the last 2 hours before coming on the air tonight filling out envelopes, sending Keep Canada Weird listeners swag, like stickers and stuff, as a result of them appearing on the show by way of voice memo. I got a voice memo this week that I'm going to play because it kind of ties into what I've been doing. Listen to Rachel.
Hey, Jordan. How's it going? My name's Rachel, and I've been a listener for a long time to the Nighttime Podcast. I love it. And the reason I'm trying to contact you is because I collect stickers, and I love that that's one of the first things I'm telling you about me because it makes me sound so very nerdy. Anyway, yeah, I'd like to buy some Nighttime Podcast stickers if you sell them. If you do, hit me back at the email that's attached to this recording. Thank you.
Well, Rachel, as I've said in past episodes, if your voice memo appears on the show, I will send you Keep Canada Weird swag free of charge. As I play her voice memo, she now qualifies, so she will not need to send me a toonie for a sticker. Rachel, send me your mailing information and I will get something out to you. And let that be a warning or message to all other members of the Keep Canada Weird Army who would like to represent the show by way of stickers or pins. Send us a voice memo, and if it makes it on the show, you will get that sent to you free of charge. But I want to use this as an opportunity to call out to listeners abroad, and I would like to hear voice memos from people outside of Canada letting us know what they like about the show, why you listen to a show where two uneducated, one handsome person tries to keep Canada weird.
Yeah, two highly uneducated podcast hosts.
Well, hopefully the floodgates will continue to stay open because we got a bunch of listener mail tonight. I will sprinkle it through the show as we go, but we have a full house in terms of voice memos and in terms of weird Canadian news. Last week, as it turned out, was an odd week here in Canada, as the headlines suggest. When we keep Canada weird tonight by highlighting, seeking out, exploring, celebrating weird Canadian news stories, we're going to be talking about a famous Torontonian's missing cat. We're going to talk about Guns N' Roses. We'll hear the story of a bald raccoon, which is some serious nightmare fuel. And we're going to talk about balloons. Where do you want to start with all this?
There's a lot of stories I like in this episode. I
I
like
know.
balloons. I like the raccoons. I like cats. Cats are my favorite. Let's start there.
Let's start with cats. And we have said it is a commitment we have to everyone who listens to the show that if cats are in the news in Canada, if there is a mainstream news article involving cats, we will cover it on this show. Last week did not disappoint. As I said in the setup here, a famous resident of Toronto's cat is missing, and there is a significant reward for this cat. Toronto's Amelia Maltep is a unique person. That's the owner of the cat. Born a male in a South Asian community, Amelia is known back home as something between a trailblazer and a celebrity, as she's the first person to come out as transgender in her community, a move that had led to intense media attention and public scrutiny. Think of her as something between Kim Kardashian and somebody who pushes the boundaries in a very conservative place. So that's the backstory. Jump ahead a bunch of years. Amelia is a social media influencer, model, and real estate mogul in Toronto. But none of that is why they're being discussed tonight. Amelia's cat is missing, and they're offering a significant reward for the return of it.
The owner of a unique cat that went missing from Toronto's Castlelome area downtown is offering a pretty large reward for its safe returning. Joining me now is Amelia Maltep, Mika's owner. Amelia, thank you very much for joining us this morning, or this afternoon, excuse me.
Thank you for having me.
Now, you're looking for your cat. Tell us a little bit about your cat, and then we're going to talk about the reward. But what is Mika? What makes her special?
So he's F1 Savannah, and he have a very pretty long ears and polka dot brown color coat.
So you're offering a $10,000 reward. It's a very unique looking cat. Why that much of a reward?
Well, for me, it's not about the money. I just want my boy to be home, and I thought it will help and motivate people to be look for him. So that's the main reason. It's nothing to do with money. Yeah.
Yeah. And what kind of cat is he? I'm looking at him with the spots and everything.
So it's F1 Savannah.
A Savannah. And where are they from? What makes them so unusual looking?
So he's African cat, desert cat.
An African desert cat. What drew you to him?
Well, when I saw his face, I just I knew it's meant for me. And now he's lost. And I'm doing everything I can to find him.
And any idea what might have happened? Are you worried it might have been stolen? He might have been stolen?
I'm not worried about him being stolen because he's very shy and very scared of people, So I'm not worried about that, but I know he's very good in hiding. So it's just matter of time. Everybody pretty much in my neighborhood and all around, people knows him. So it's just matter of time that people find him, and I think we will find him.
Well, good luck, and hopefully the cat turns up, Mika turns up, and it comes home on his own, so you have to give out the reward.
I'm not that worried about giving out how much money I have to give, but I just want him to be safe and being home, as soon as I can. So that's what mostly I concern.
Okay, Amelia, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you.
A lot to say about it.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, an exotic cat is missing in a major city, and there's a $10,000 reward from this kind of mysterious rich person. Because Amelia even says, it's not about the money, how much money I have. I just want my boy back. It's kind of crazy, I think.
Yeah, and 10,000. I mean, I guess I shouldn't speculate on how much she's worth and how much she'd be willing to pay out, or how much one, a real estate mogul should pay out for a missing cat.
Mm-hmm.
But do you find the 10,000, considering we're assuming that she's rich, right?
Must be.
Certainly looked rich in the video.
Oh my gosh!
The Zoom, the Zoom kind of news interview that they were doing, and she was obviously on her computer at home. and on her webcam, and you could see just the immaculate background of.
Yeah, it was just like diamonds and statues everywhere, but it's interesting. I don't know. 10 grand, I think that's enough money that would actually get people searching and supporting the search.
But if I had the money, I'd go higher than that. I'd go 20,000, 30, 40, 50, because that's when you're really gonna perk people's ears. It's because 10,000, it's like, well, I gotta. It's it's gonna bring out some people, but it's not gonna bring out everybody. So I would have went right for the throat and slapped
$100,000.
Yeah, $50,000 reward for anyone who finds my cat.
Yeah, I guess if you had the money, this big difference is this cat in this story is like an exotic, probably expensive cat. Like I've never seen one of those like where you could just like get one of those weird savanna cats. For people who don't know what a savanna cat is, it looks just like a tiny little like tiger kind of thing or something.
Almost like a leopard or something.
But yeah, 10,000, I think it's unique.
Again, this is going on the assumption that she's wealthy. Certainly is giving the appearance of wealth. I have to say that I find the $10,000 coming from a wealthy person to be a low ball reward. Now, I'm sorry.
To me, $10,000 is that's a lot of money, but yeah,
it's a lot of money to me. Like I wouldn't be able to scrape together $10,000.
But you would not describe either of us as like real estate moguls, social media influencers and such.
Yeah. Like I could probably, scrape a couple grand together to say if my cat was lost and be like, a reward of $1,000 or $2,000 or something at the most. But, but $10,000 coming from her seems low to me.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
especially because it's a rare cat. That cat might have cost $10,000 or.
Yeah. And I hope the cat's hiding and it's going to just find its way home and everything will be okay. If not, I hope someone finds the cat and cashes in that reward and goes on the news to talk about it, because that would be something, I'm sure that would be another interesting piece of news in Canada.
Right. Now, I hope the cat is found. I'm a big cat fan, as everyone who listens to the show knows. However, if somebody hears this story on our podcast, Keep Canada Weird, and then goes out and finds the cat after that, having been alerted of the missing cat through our podcast, we want a percentage of that reward money.
Not want, deserve, are entitled to.
All of those words.
Yeah, well, we'll see if that happens. After you claim the reward, reach out, listeners. I will send you some nighttime stickers. You send us $2,500. Let's move on to the next story. Since we're talking money and wealth and financials, let's get into the story of a possibly valuable thing turning up at a Goodwill store in Edmonton. It could be valuable, but it could also be a hoax. When a Goodwill store in the Sherwood Park area of Edmonton began the process of sorting and pricing their last load of donated goods, they found something unusual: 2 brand new electric guitars. The only blemish on them seemed to be large signatures written in metallic ink. And it doesn't take a music historian to pick out whose autographs they appeared to be.
At the Sherwood Park Goodwill, you never know what gems you'll find. Among the racks of clothes, books, and household goods is one item making some noise.
Then all of a sudden I get a call and they're like, yeah, we think we have something very special that got donated, and we usually don't get items like this donated too often.
These 2 guitars were anonymously dropped off among piles of other donations. It was the black guitar that piqued the staff's interest.
Looked in the case, looked at the autographs, and they were actually a little blown away. They're like, hold on, is that real?
A cause for excitement because they believe the autographs belong to one of the biggest bands in the world. Guns N' Roses, a band that's been around for nearly 4 decades and sold tens of millions of albums. Lead singer Axl Rose and guitarist Slash are 2 of the biggest names in rock music.
Axl and Slash, I mean, just iconic in the music industry, and they were pretty identifiable. And we matched them up to signatures that we've seen, and they're, like I said, they're close, but we of course don't have that full authenticity of it.
So of course, with anything that is autographed, the big question is, are the autographs real? And for that, well, we go to an antiques dealer to get the answer. We headed over to Beck Antiques and Jewelry in Sherwood Park Mall. Owner Clinton Beck has spent 3 decades as a treasure hunter and appraiser.
Well, this is certainly a beautiful guitar, isn't it?
He believes it belonged to a fan who would have gone to different autograph sessions. Beck broke down the process of authentication.
He usually signs it Axl and then Rose. He usually does both. This is a bit unusual to just have the single signature, but again, it is sort of typical. If he had 100 signatures lined up, he's trying to get it done as fast as possible. Slash has a very unique signature as well, and that is perfect as well.
After a few more observations.
Unfortunately, we don't know where this guitar came from because he was donated to Goodwill. So we don't have real provenance on the piece, but we can see by all these things, my gut feeling is that these are the real deal.
Beck says the guitar could be sold at auction for $1,250 and thousands more at a charity auction.
What blows me away is that money could actually go a long way to supporting our mission of helping people with disabilities to find employment.
As for when a local GNR fan can get their hands on the guitar,
all we need is just a little patience.
Goodwill is still figuring out the next steps.
So point one, let me just address this. The guitar itself is a really cheap electric guitar. It's new, of course, but it's like the lowest tier of like electric guitar. And I just want to put that out there because that plays into my theory. First of all, what are you thinking about this?
Well, it's funny you mentioned that because the gentleman at the antique store,
yeah, he's like a beautiful guitar.
Beautiful guitar.
Yeah, I'm like, no, it's not. That's like really cheap.
Yeah.
And basic.
Yeah, it's mid. It's the mid guitar.
And I think that's kind of a sign in my greater theory. So I will tell you, there is this kind of prank that people do. It's not common, but it is something people do, and it's donating stuff to a Goodwill shop, like say a book, and putting a signature, like an author signature in the book, and then going back to the Goodwill shop like a week later or something and see if they have it in like the valuables area and you've tricked them. And I kind of think maybe that's what's happening here. And the reason why, let me lay out my theory, is in this news piece, they show the guitar and you can see the signatures. And I don't know signatures, they look like real signatures. But one of the quote unquote members of Guns N' Roses wrote their name. I don't know if it was Axl, but it's like Axl 2014.
I think that was, it might have been Slash that wrote 2014.
Slash 20, yeah. And when I looked, for people who know the history of Guns N' Roses, huge, successful, one of the biggest rock bands of all time, they had broke up for a long time and the original members weren't in the band. During 2014, when the guitar is said to have been signed, they were split up. So they wouldn't have all been in the same place to sign autographs. They've since reunited, but that happened in 2016. So they weren't in the same place to all sign it. So I think that's why they present the theory, and we hear this in the news clip, that the person who owned the guitar would have had to go to multiple signings. So they would have had to go to see Axl and get him to sign it, go see Slash somewhere else, get him to sign it, and get all 4 members to sign it separately. And if you had the money to do that, why would you have, like, I'm going to buy the cheapest guitar that's not associated with any of the members of the band and travel the world and get all the original members of Guns N' Roses to sign this $200 guitar instead of, the $1,500 guitar that is associated specifically with Slash, the guitar player for Guns N' Roses. I believe this to be a prank. And someone's probably laughing at what they were able to do with a Sharpie and a $200 guitar they wanted to get rid of.
Now, going back again to the antique dealer in this story, he points out and claims that the Slash autograph is perfect. You're suggesting that they are fake autographs, but the antique dealer is saying that Slash one looks real.
But he's an antique dealer, not like a music memorabilia appraiser. Like antique dealer says it's real, podcaster says it's not. Who are you going to believe?
I like your theory. I do. I like it.
Okay.
I kind of lean towards your theory, and I also lean towards the fact of this antique dealer being completely full of shit.
It gets him on the news and stuff too. Like, I
Because
don't
he's
know.
in a mall too. He's an
Yeah.
antique dealer, like just in some like just rundown mall in some small town. Like
Yeah. If
he's like,
if
I'll do it. I'll be on the news and advertise my shop and I'll grade the autographs.
Sure. If it is legit, how does it end up donated to a Goodwill shop? Because it's, again, somebody had to put the effort into getting all four members of Guns N' Roses separately to sign this guitar. That is like a life's mission for a lot of Guns N' Roses fans. Someone who puts that effort in doesn't just say, I don't need this anymore. I'm just going to donate this to Goodwill. I'll just drop it off anonymously.
So it is possible that somebody had passed away and it was just a family member getting rid of their things. And it could be as simple as that to explain why.
Possibly. I kind of worry for whoever buys this because my gut tells me there's shenanigans associated with this guitar. I don't know. I wouldn't pay more than the actual guitar's worth for this, which is probably $200.
There was another guitar pictured in the story, but they didn't talk about it at all.
No, and it had signatures on it.
Yeah.
It's
so
in
what
the news story. It's just in the background. I don't know, but
yeah,
it is. I think there's something weird about this story. I don't know.
Yeah.
Rather than random antique appraiser saying, validating the signatures, there's people who would specialize in validating and authenticating signatures, and Guns N' Roses members would be people who would be, they would know. So I don't know. I think it's an easy mystery to solve if you have access to that guitar, but I would think this Goodwill shop that wants to sell this guitar probably doesn't want to go too far down that road.
And hopefully when this news footage had aired, somebody had called in who is an expert and said, yeah, it's not real.
There's not going to be a follow-up story about that.
No, there's not.
You know what? I'd like to call, I guess I could call the Goodwill shop. If I do build up the courage to call them, I'll air it at the end of this episode after the credits or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
It would be interesting to hear if they still have it, if it's sold, what the story is. We will give a follow-up if I learn more, but we may never know. But let's move on to the next story. Before we do, actually, let's move to a voice memo, because I got a bunch of them. This, I hate to bring it up. This relates to egg/egg. Victoria believes it could be a hoax, could be misdirection. Listen to this.
Okay.
This is an unexpected voice memo from Victoria.
Hi guys, Victoria here from upstate New York, weighing in on the whole egg-ag debacle. When I first heard you speak about this, I was under the assumption that you were changing ag to egg on purpose to poke fun at the small ag town. I was dumbfounded that listeners didn't get the joke and were turning this into a controversy. Now, with the benefit of further thought and additional listener comments, I think maybe you were both paid off by the great animal uprising lobby, which asked you to change egg into egg to get the chickens on board with the whole movement. Either way, both scenarios are very on brand with Keep Canada Weird. Keep up the great work, guys, and stay riz and drippy.
Do you remember what those words mean?
Oh, yeah. I do remember that, riz is like charisma.
Right?
Right?
And drip is just...
Drippy is it's good. You look cool. It's very drippy.
The person looking for their cat definitely had a drippy vibe, and the cat actually had a drippy vibe.
That cat was drippy, man. That was a drippy cat, I must say. I wanted it.
Yeah, well, Victoria, I don't know who is behind egg/egg gate, but I will tell you, Aaron and I were genuinely and legitimately misunderstanding what an egg town is. There was no acting or sarcasm related to that.
No, just rolling with life's punches. Two hyper uneducated guys talking about weird stories in Canada and not knowing what's going on.
Another callback to last week's episode. This wasn't a voice memo. This was an email I got. Someone saying, like, you guys talked about, the story about the baby being born on the plane. Did you know about this? And it was an email, or it was a link to an article in Quebec. Do you have the show notes in front of you? Maybe you can read it. If not, I will.
I can get the show notes up.
Don't hurt yourself.
Well, it's been that kind of nice,
Yeah, the email was from a fella named Glenn in Quebec, and his story was his email said something to the effect of, like, you think having a baby on a plane is bad? Listen to this, or read this.
So here it is. A central Quebec health authority has confirmed that a woman gave birth outside a hospital in Drummondville, Quebec, after the mother arrived at the building and found the main doors locked. So the health authority says employees heard noises outside the hospital early Tuesday morning and discovered the woman and her newborn. Spokeswoman says that the main hospital doors are locked at night and access to emergency services is through another door in a different part of the building, about a 5-minute walk away. The health authority says a security guard who was working for a private agency has been removed from their job for failing to help the woman. The hospital says it will also improve signage at its doors so people know where to go, and has reminded employees of the importance of explaining to future parents how to access the facilities.
Oh, man. So what they're saying with a whole bunch of words is she arrived to the hospital, I think alone, in labor, went to the main doors, which were locked. It seems like a security guard saw her and didn't do anything about it.
Mm-hmm.
There wasn't signs saying, like, emergency after hours, go over here to a different door. So she went to a bench and had her baby.
Yeah, because the security guard is like, that the emergency is another door. You can't.
Door's
come in
locked,
here.
hun. No.
Yeah, and that's just generally what they do working anywhere else, like at a convenience store or, at a train station. But
that is this is a shocking story that I'm surprised is not big news. That is horrific that can happen.
Maybe like the Axl Guns N' Roses guitar. Maybe it's fake. Maybe we've been duped.
By Glenn? No, this came from a credible source. This is legit.
This is legit.
Well,
yeah. Well,
you're setting up something good, because we do have something I'm going to air later at the end of the show. We're going to end the show with a story that we will question whether or not it's real, because it is so bizarre. But
you know what we need to do is get an antique dealer in a mini mall to come on the show and tell us what stories are real and what stories are just fakes.
Just fact check as we go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, we could do it. Well, this next story that I'm going to get into here, I would have believed it was fake. The photo associated with the story doesn't look like anything I've ever seen on this planet. It looks like AI throwing up stuff from nightmares, but it is true. It involves a mysterious animal. So Hope for Wildlife, which is a wildlife rehab center, received a call from some residents of Cape Breton Island who reported an mystery animal in distress that was roaming around the area. But they're calling it a mystery animal because it was like nothing they had ever seen before. They didn't know what it was. It was just this small, weird animal that appeared to be in pain. Hope for Wildlife responded and managed to capture the animal in a trap. When they inspected it, they identified it as a raccoon with alopecia, which is like makes your hair follow. Well, they believe it to be alopecia. So the raccoon was hairless. Listen to this story. For people who are only listening to the podcast, Google this to see what a hairless raccoon looks like. But here's the story.
So we had an interesting call from some concerned people that lived in Cape Breton. They'd come across an animal, they weren't really sure what it was. And once we got a live trap and were able to bring him in, it was clear that he was a raccoon, but he's a bald raccoon. We don't see it very often, but in every species we do get cases in where the animals come in bald. But it might happen once a year with raccoons. I think I've only seen 2 others in all the 25 years I've been doing this work. We're going to sedate him over the next couple of days. There's no big hurry because he's healthy, and just do some skin scraping, maybe a biopsy just to be sure it's something genetic like alopecia, something like that. The question will be, can he ever go back to the wild with no fur? Maybe it's something that we can fix with nutrition. It's really hard to say, but how this little guy lived through the whole winter without any fur, I don't know. So he would have, succumbed to the temperatures if he wasn't probably sleeping away a lot of the winter and not coming out very often. But he looks really healthy. One of our staff named him Rufus after a TV show character that she was familiar with when she was growing up. I think the long-term prognosis is good. However, he may not be able to have a typical life in the wild.
A bald raccoon, as it turns out, looks kind of like a mini kangaroo or something.
When I first saw this story a few days ago, and when I first saw the raccoon, the hairless raccoon, I would have mistaken it for like a cat, like those hairless
like
cats,
the Sphinx kind of looking things.
Yeah.
It does kind of have that look to it, but its shape of its face is different. It kind of has the body of a Sphinx cat in the head of Wile E. Coyote. If you know the drawings of Wile E. Coyote, that's kind of what the raccoon's head looks like, is like the way Wile E. Coyote from the Roadrunner comic cartoons or whatever was drawn. It looks really freaky. I'm surprised the thing managed to survive the winter. In the news clip we just watched, the bald raccoon is indoors looking freezing. It's just like shaking. This little skinny, it's all just skin and It is really creepy.
Now, if this hairless raccoon went missing, what kind of a reward would you put up for it?
What's rarer than a hairless raccoon? You heard the lady from Hope for Wildlife. She's been doing it a long time. I think she said she only saw 2 of them in the 25 years she worked there. This is a $50,000 reward for something like this.
Wow. More than the African desert cat.
Let's hear another listener voice memo. Tim in Maine has noticed something pretty suspicious about Tim Hortons. Listen to this.
Hey, Jordan and Aaron. This is Tim in Maine, down in the States, not too far away from you guys. I was thinking about the Tim Hortons issue. I actually don't mind Tim Hortons. They've infiltrated into Maine and different places. But we used to live in a southern part of Maine, so quite close to the southern border, and it happened to be a town, Lewiston, where there was a big French-Canadian heritage, so a lot of folks that lived there. And it was funny because in the early to mid single-digit 2000s, they put really quickly 5 or 6 different Tim Hortons locations in Lewiston. And I got thinking about this, like an infiltration into the United States, hearing about some of those other voice memos that people had left. And they all opened and were really popular. And used to go there occasionally and enjoyed it. And then it was very sudden, but they had been there probably for about 4 or 5 years. And suddenly they began to close one by one, but very quickly, completely vacant. And the whole area was like, what's going on with Tim Hortons? Why are they closing all these brand new locations? They were built from the ground up. So there was some talk about it, and it showed up in the local newspaper that Tim Hortons said, this is our business strategy, to start several businesses, establish a beachhead maybe, and then close them one by one. And I was trying to figure that out. And I don't mind, like I said, I don't mind Tim Hortons, but I have to scratch my head and wonder, what in the world are they doing? And why are they building these brand new brick and mortar places in Maine and then keeping them open for an indeterminate amount of time and being somewhat successful and then closing them one by one? Seems kind of suspicious to me. I wonder what you all thought.
Tim, it sounds hella suspicious to me as well. First of all, Tim has just coined the new branding for our discussion, which is the Tim Hortons issue. So
Tim Hortons issue.
that's like the overarching title for any discussion related to Tim Hortons. Here on Keep Canada Weird, we do address the Tim Hortons issue.
We do. We face it head on, the Tim Hortons issue. What do you think about this one? This is an interesting state of affairs.
Well, if they are infiltrating, moving down south, going towards the US, this style of business, this cutthroat style of business of opening up multiple shops, putting competitors out of business, and then kind of centralizing in some way, like kind of falling back, I could see that being a part of their plan, just flooding the market with brick and mortar shops, selling coffee, probably putting competitors out of business. And once the competitors are out of business, they can just drop down to one shop, cut their costs, and continue to sell coffee.
Yeah, that sounds pretty close to what they're doing, I'd say. But I like to think in my heart that Tim Hortons had set up a few shops in Maine. They did poorly, and then they were shut down, and they were run out of town.
Yeah, someone ran them the hell out of town. And they came back through New Brunswick with their tail between their legs, with their bad coffee between their legs.
Yes, people tasted the coffee there, and then they said, get out of our town. We don't want you here. Your coffee's terrible. Go back to Canada.
And yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. Tim in Maine, I love the Tim Hortons issue as a branding for this, and we will continue with that. While we were listening to the voicemail, I actually wrote it down so I won't forget it. Anyway, that was a dark, serious discussion around Tim's. Let's go to something lighter. This will be the story we end the show with. I enjoy hearing stories of Canadians who find viral fame in an unlikely way. In last week's episode, we had the basketball-playing grandma who wanted to get in the WNBA, and she became a TikTok star. Here's another similar style of story. This involves a man in British Columbia who lost his jobs as a result of the pandemic, found himself with a bunch of free time, and one of the ways he killed the free time was making a slow motion video of him popping a balloon with an axe. He uploaded it online. Very quickly, it had millions of views, and his new career was born. He's a balloon popping star. Listen to this.
Before David Beck discovered the positive potential of filling a balloon full of water, he was striving to be a full-time travel photographer, taking photos like these.
It's kind of my big dream. I was working hard.
But then the pandemic hit harder, and David lost both his photography gigs and the bartending job that was paying the bills.
I was definitely under, a lot of stress.
David says his mental health started suffering, so he began searching for some way to take his mind off it all.
Obviously, you're looking for a positive place to put your energy.
And obviously, if you have a lot of time on your hands with nothing to lose, why not pop a balloon with an axe and capture the action on camera? But far from obvious was what happened after David posted the video on social media.
The first kind of 24 hours, it got like 1 million views or something.
It eventually reached more than 200 million views, David says.
I was freaking out.
So he wondered what would happen if he made a bunch of other videos.
Throw spaghetti at the wall and it sticks.
You keep going.
Maybe I just think right place at the right time.
Yet, 3.5 years later, during this very different time,
they have skyrocketed.
Thanks to producing countless thousands of daily balloon videos, David's earned 20 million followers on social media, up to more than 500 million views per video, and turned this into a full-time job.
It's wild, but I'm stoked.
David says he also couldn't be more grateful for the opportunity to focus his seemingly superficial content on more substantial issues, ranging from the war in Ukraine to videos specifically aimed at calming anxiety and distracting from depression.
My message is to, share gratitude, positivity, and love.
And to show how the worst days of our lives, if we choose to respond differently, just might inspire us to realize the best.
When life's calling on you, right, you got to respond and you got to do, what you can to keep going, right?
He kind of spun it at the end in like this kind of emotional, thought-provoking, powerful way. But at the end of the day, I think it's like if you do something weird and interesting and put it up online, someone, like he says actually in the clip there, you throw spaghetti against the wall, every so often it sticks. Who would have thought that you could make a career and probably make a lot of money popping water balloons on YouTube and TikTok and stuff?
Well, we speak to someone now of a younger generation, like say somebody in their early 20s, they'd probably be like, yeah, of course you could. You can do anything on TikTok and find an audience and grow it. And next thing you know, you're rolling in the greens, you
Yeah.
know?
I looked at he's on YouTube. I don't know if he's on TikTok. I said that, but I know he's on YouTube and he has a ton of views. And you can, like, if you have videos where you're getting like millions of views, you're making a ton of money. And if your production expenses are getting colored balloons at the dollar store and filling them up with water and popping them with a whippersnipper, it's pure profit.
Yeah, but there is a lot of time that he's putting into them, though, because you can tell by how elaborate some of his videos are if you go
Mhm.
and watch them.
Mhm.
There's a ton of time being put into that
Mhm.
and setting up all of those, multi-layered balloons and all of the different ways that he pops them and everything. So,
Yeah, there's the setup. And also, let's be real here, is this guy's background is in photography, so he's able to make his videos look beautiful. If the average person grabbed their phone and filmed themselves popping a balloon, it wouldn't be this cinematic thing that this guy's able to do naturally just because of his background.
yeah, exactly. This guy has a very artistic background, and he really brings that to these videos. So it's great to see someone like this who puts a real effort into
Hmm.
what he produces on YouTube and TikTok and all of these platforms. So it's great to see someone like him make a lot of money doing it. But then you see people who put garbage up there and they find an audience and it's not interesting, it's not well thought out, it's not creative, but they still find an audience anyway.
Yeah, I know, because
And then they make millions.
we have to get to the closing moments of the show. I want to play a news clip. I want to play one last voicemail here. This is from a repeat voicemail sender. So this is a trusted source. I have no reason to question the credibility of Teresa, but this story is so bizarre that I'm left just asking you, Aaron, is this story real? You remember last week we talked about a baby being born on a plane, and I said I would like to hear from any listeners who had a bizarre, strange, unusual, noteworthy experience on a plane. Teresa did, and it is so bizarre that I'm left saying, this can't be real, right?
Hello, you wonderful people. It is Teresa from Victoria, BC calling, your regular Keep Canada Weird correspondent here. I take my job very seriously. And I got a story this time that actually is about me. Uh, so I was listening to your podcast about the woman who gave birth on the Canadian flight from the Caribbean. I was on a flight from Fiji to Vancouver around 2007, and it was an island hopper flight. So it stopped at every conceivable Fijian island there is. When it would stop at the islands, passengers were not allowed off unless they were actually, getting disembarking there. And then some new passengers would come on at the same time. So at one point, an older gentleman gets on in a wheelchair. He's dressed in actual hospital attire, and he has a nurse with him. They set him up right on the row across from me. Well, this fellow did not look very healthy. He was very frail. He had an oxygen tank. So we end up taking off. We're about 2 hours into the next portion, and all of a sudden, they're just getting ready to serve dinner. All of a sudden, I look at the man, and I notice that he doesn't look, well, to put it bluntly, alive anymore. So I'm kind of looking at him, and the nurse has fallen asleep. So the stewardess goes by and I say, excuse me, your passenger here is not looking very alive, and his nurse is asleep. Yeah, I think somebody should be checking on him. Make a long story short, they ended up checking on him. The guy had died. They're just getting ready to serve dinner. They tell me that I'm not allowed to tell anybody in the surrounding areas on the plane that this person has died because everybody will freak out. There's nothing they can do. So I am not lying here. Not lying. They prop him up. Well, he's already sitting up, but they prop him up more. Okay. And they put sunglasses on him. It was total weekend at Bernie's. I am not lying here. And just pretended, I guess they were just going to pretend that he fell asleep and I wasn't supposed to tell anybody. They continued to serve dinner. I had to sit across from this dead man for the next 2 hours. Yeah. And it's the first time I'd seen a dead body. And very, very bizarre situation. So at the next place that we stopped, the next island, they take him just, quietly, just like it's another day and, that this is time for him to depart. So he's just going to get off. Well, he departed all right. He was in heaven. So they just got his wheelchair. We're very cautious with, of course, keeping how they kept his head up and so on and so forth. Kept the sunglasses on the guy. And then at this point, they put a hat on him and wheeled him out. So, yeah, very, very bizarre. Something I will never get out of my mind. Anyway, thank you very much for all that you guys do. And Jordan and Aaron, please don't ever change. I love you guys just as you are.
We won't change because we can't. I've tried. People have tried to talk me into it. This story, on the surface, I'm like, this is too crazy to be true. But then I went and Googled a little bit about dealing with like death on a plane. And it does kind of check out. Like, why would they announce? Like, I found a couple stories of people dying on planes and reading the articles to try to get a sense of how it was handled. It would make sense that they wouldn't just announce like, attention, everybody, the man here has died, but we're, in the sky, so we can't do anything. So everyone panic.
Yeah, the pilot comes on over the speakers overhead. He's like, "You want to see a dead body?"
Oh, God. So, but putting the glasses on him and the hat on him, that just seems like maybe like going a step too far.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, dress him up. Put a wig on him, a fake mustache. Like just a Hawaiian shirt. And
I'm being serious, man.
I don't know. I mean, yeah. I at the same time, if I was found out I was sitting near a decaying body,
we're all decaying bodies. It's very slowly decaying.
You're decaying. I'm improving constantly. You're morbidly uneducated. So.
That's right.
What if this was a shorter flight in comparison to how long flights can be.
Yeah, this is probably like a 2-hour flight or something.
So what if this happened on like, some kind of a 20-hour flight or something?
Easy answer. They would just divert the plane. It would, just like when there's a medical emergency and they land at the next airport. In this case, they were kind of going to the next airport anyway. So there was not even anything they had to do. They just had to get the body off the plane at the next stop without causing too much chaos. And it kind of sounds like that's what they did. The one thing that I kind of questioned is he comes on the plane in rough shape with a nurse, with an oxygen tank, as Teresa described. When I looked into that aspect of the story, there are special like kind of medical type flights that you can take if you're traveling and you're in bad shape. I'm kind of like, why isn't the guy flying on one of those? But then again, this happened like it's not like this is in the United States or Canada or something.
Yeah, it could have been special circumstances as well. Like we don't have time to round up a medical flight. We have to take the next available flight. For whatever reason, there's so many details that we don't know about about what brought this dying individual on board this flight.
Let's get back to the point I aired that, though. I will say I have no reason to doubt Teresa from being 100% accurate. She is a trusted member of the Keep Canada Weird correspondent team. I have no reason to question her. I'm going to say I believe this to be a true story.
I believe it to be true as well. And I don't really have any facts to back my statement up.
But your heart?
Yeah, it's a gut instinct. Yeah.
Let's wrap this damn thing up. We've been through a lot tonight. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. We had a lot of technical difficulties at the start.
And we had a lot of weird Canadian through the beginning, middle, and end. I couldn't pick a favorite story tonight, but I will be seeing bald raccoons in my head while I sleep. I will be comforted by the appearance and sound and shape of popping balloons. I'm going to hope for the return of a very expensive exotic cat to a kind of mystery mogul.
Yeah, and I'll be looking at anybody wearing sunglasses anywhere and wondering, are they a dead body?
And I won't be buying guitars that are said to be signed by Guns N' Roses during a period of time that the band wasn't even together.
Yeah, I mean, you know more about Guns N' Roses than I do, so I'd be the sucker who bought it, and I'd be like, Jordan, I got you something so special. It's a really cheap, crappy guitar signed by Guns N' Roses.
I'd still appreciate it from you. Then it would have a great story. I'd be happy with that. But
yeah.
Let's put a bow on this. We've kept Canada weird. We hope to hear from some members of the Keep Canada Weird Army. Go to nighttimepodcast.com/contact and send us a voice memo with your thoughts. And if you heard your voice in this episode, email me at nighttimepodcast@gmail.com with your mailing address, and I will send you out something special as a thank you. Handsome Aaron Airport, until next time.
Jordan, until next time.
Donate to Hope for Wildlife. Seems like a great organization that we all benefit from having here in Nova Scotia.
And next time you see a raccoon with fur, look at them and say, you're nothing special.
I want to thank you for helping Aaron and I fulfill our mission to keep Canada weird, but let us also call out to you for even greater support. If something weird happens in your neck of the woods, we want to hear about it. As well, if you have any thoughts, opinions, or theories on any of the stories we discussed tonight, we want to hear about that as well. The best way to reach us is via a voice memo, which you can send at nighttimepodcast.com/contact. We hope to hear from you. Now, before we part here, let me end with some thanks. First, I want to give a big thanks to Aaron for sharing another evening with me and with you, the listeners of Nighttime. I'd like to give a big shout out to the internet's favorite cult leader, Unicole, who provides the intro and outro voiceovers for this series. A thanks to Monty Data, who provides the outro version of O Canada. And lastly, but most importantly, a massive thank you goes out to each and every one of you listening to Nighttime, as without your interest and your support, this show would be as pointless as it would be impossible. Now, on the topic of support, let me thank the newest subscribers of the premium feed, Ryan and Frosty. Thank you for your generous support. For anyone else who'd like to support the show, you can help us out in a variety of ways. First of all, a premium feed subscription costs just a couple dollars a month, and that money funds the creation of the show. But the premium feed also gives you the episodes 2 days early, gives them to you ad-free, and gives you access to a full back catalog of episodes. If that sounds like something you'd be interested in, you can go premium right now at patreon.com/nighttimepodcast. And even if you don't want to go premium, you can still support the show by simply sharing this episode on social media and letting all your like-minded friends know why they should listen. Thank you for helping us grow this. Now, until next time, take care of each other, hug your loved ones tight, and let us know if you see anything weird.
Keep Canada Weird is written, hosted, and produced by the Nighttime Podcast.
And now to our viewers and listeners everywhere. Good night.
Speaking.
Hi, I'm calling about the Guns N' Roses guitar I seen in the news. Are you the right Goodwill with that?
Yes, we are. It's not in store currently. We're still trying to make a decision on how it's going to be sold right now, but we should have more information more towards the end of the week.
Oh, okay, so right now it's not in the store for sale. It's still like being researched or whatever, I guess.
Yeah, so like we've had some people try to make offers on it and everything, but we're just trying to figure out what the best channel is for us to create a sale.
All right, sounds good. I just didn't want to go in if it wasn't there, so I'm glad I called.
It is not. It is not.
Okay.
There's potentially going to be a second one come out as well, just so you know.
Ooh. Oh, Guns N' Roses one, or?
No, so in the news broadcasting, if you saw the guitar that was next to the Guns N' Roses one,
Yeah.
it's actually signed by Van Halen. The two like dominant signatures, unfortunately, have rubbed off over the years.
Okay, cool.
But yeah, there is potential that one of those will come up as well.
Ooh, interesting. All right, cool. I'll stay tuned for that. Well, thank you so much for the information. Take care.
Yeah, no problem.
Bye-bye.
Bye.